here in all its porcelain glory, and I'm here to tell you this, is the first British radio show to be transmitted on television. See for the first time Peter Sellers saying words you could only previously hear on radio.
Oh, I thought about a word so far.
Not only that, but see and hear Spike Miligna is Minnie Bannister singing... See England's tallest dwarf, Harry Seacombe, is, as he says, what, personally.
What, personally.
This is the Goon Show.
Ding dong, 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 ding dong.
Keep lad up, keep up.
Keep up, lad up.
Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, Paul lad.
Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
The highly skilled whistling tune. Finish it, you twit. Fire a gun or something. Finished, thank you. The highly skilled whistling tune. It must be the noble Eccles.
Huzzah!
Oh.
Ah! Captain Seagoon, hands up!
Oh, who are you?
Mother Brown!
Knees up!
Need a Mother Brown! Need a Mother Brown! Crush me crundles its villain de paprika, Moriarty, knee trembler, head of the dreaded highly secret, mysterious whistling Hungarian counter-espionage.
They've also played the lead in several French postcards.
It's Marinati. You've gone bold.
Fire.
What is that lump on your nose?
That is the difference between margarine.
I know what we can do. Let's play mothers and milkmen. And Neddy can be the blue tit that pecks the top of the cream. I had it my groin.
Bluebotle, you little devil. What were you doing up my trousers?
A man has to do what he has to do.
These were my childhood heroes. I became almost obsessed with them. And I'm glad that I did, because many years later I was able to understand the audience response to Monty Python in a way that I would never have done if I hadn't been such a fan of that show.
It was rather like hearing Elvis Presley doing Heartbreak Hotel for the first time. You knew this was very, very different. And it wasn't just that my father sort of looked askance at the radio when he heard it. It was that there was something in the form of it that was different.
That tricycle against the wall. Whose is it?
Mine. A present from an admirer.
Could you drive me to town on it?
Oh, the tricycle isn't mine. The wall was the present.
Well, drive me there on that.
Right, hold tight.
It was a picture in Spike's mind. It was a picture in their mind. And just the enjoyment of language as well. I suppose they said, you jest. Just what? You just told me that. And the enjoyment comes searing through.
Lord Seacombe, ask a native where we are.
Right, sir. I'll knock on this oyster.
Yes?
Oh. Is Pearl in?
No. Pearl isn't in, but I'm her mother.
Of course, you must be mother of Pearl.
It was just very loose. It was very... It could flip off anywhere, and it fuels your imagination. If you listen to it, it gives you the possibilities of where you could go, which is anywhere.
I'm walking backwards for Christmas across the Irish Sea. I'm walking backwards for Christmas. It's the finest thing for me. I've tried walking sideways and walking to the front. They just look at me and say it's a publicity stunt.
I've come across strange marooned, landlocked goon enthusiasts in upstate New York. You know, people who come to you from Ithaca, I remember, who say, I am the president of the Ithaca chapter of the Goon Show fan club. All hail. How interesting to find you in this neck of the woods.
Wow! Goon Island, Youming's keeper. I wonder if they mean me. Popeye, one of his adventures, came across this race of people, like Stone Age men with huge forearms.
That must be a goon from Gooney Island, I guess.
And they spoke in squiggles, and they were called Goons. And I think it was Mike Benteen who suggested that would be the name for the show.
My first impression tonight, we should like to give you the grand toast at the optician's ball. Gentlemen.
At that very moment, Germany declared war in all directions.
Bang! Wasn't worth the journey.
Cover up quickly. Here come the goons.
What about that? We've had it.
War! I must write me memoirs. The day war broke out, Winston said to me, "This has got to stop, bloody. We can't go on meeting like this, you know."
Radio shows, like Take It From Here, like the Goons, got figures which soaps get today. And in fact, radio comedy shows were more akin to today's television soaps than they are to today's television comedy shows. They had an enormous audience. The audience treated them as a regular event in their lives, and they had shared experiences with the audience. The audience and the Goons had been through the war together. Now, that was an experience which we all could have died.
Permission to speak, Harry Major? Permission granted, Harry, prisoner. I would like to... Sei lang, Volkische Bierbachter. Geblungen kaputt sich Empire Grundang. Does your wife know this? Shut up! Achtung! Gebluten geblütz! Admit it, you're a spy. I'm not a spy, I'm a shepherd. Ah, shepherd spy!
I think, in a way, people like Spike and Harry were matured by the war, and that gave a certain depth to their characterization, which they wouldn't have had if they hadn't been through that.
Let's put it this way, I couldn't have done without it. I had to have it. I had to have World War II to make me find myself, you know.
Peter Sellers was he was an actor all the time. Milligan and Seacombe, in a sense, were being themselves carried to excess, if you like.
What time is it? 5:30. 5:30? Yep. Well, don't get up till 8. Ah, but you're in the army now.
When I first met him in North Africa, I'd been downgraded from having shell shock, and he was at this depot as well, and I didn't understand him. I thought he was a stand-up Polish comic. And the first time I saw him out was in action. He was hidden in a battle dress. Steel glasses. So he wouldn't get wounded, I suppose. And I thought, my God, he must be worth a pants division to Hitler.
We had the same zany sense of humour. We just hit it off straight away. When I was demobbed, I went to the Wimble Theatre for an audition, got the job, and there was this act called Sherwood and Forrest. Forrest, who was actually Mike Benteen, played the drums. And I said, you must make this mate of mine, Miligna. He's on the same kick as us. So we went down to this pub, the Grafton Arms in Stratton Ground. I'd met up with the bloke who ran it, called Jimmy Grafton, an ex-major. And we had a great time. And then Jimmy Grafton was full of the same kind of ideas, iconoclasm, anti-establishment stuff. And by this time, I met Peter Sellers on a radio broadcast and realised that there was another idiot. So he used to come to the Graftons and, muck in with the rest of us.
And now an incident that happened in a shop the other day. The man behind the counter and 3 young men rushed in to beat him. I'm behind the counter. Excuse me. Could we have a cup of heavy stand, please? I'm sorry, gentlemen. This is the recruiting office.
It was a loose assembly of very hungry young comics. Eventually, by sheer hunger, we were forced to do something. And lo, somebody said, well, how about doing a non-hungry show? We get paid. So we went to Pat Dixon. Pat Dixon was revolutionary. He had the Confederate flag behind him like this. And he looked at this script and he said, yes, I'll do it. And that was the right answer for us.
Now, Pat Dixon was enthusiastic about getting the Goon show on the air, but he didn't particularly want the hassle of producing it himself, and so he arranged for other people to actually produce the show.
Mr. Producer, what are the Goons?
The Goons are absolutely mad, but they're the stars of the show. Okay?
Stand by. On you now.
Hello? Eaglefoot Splat Muscle here. I'll never sleep.
Well, listen, Pinhead, this is Carrot Legs McGillen here. How did I get that $5,000 in 1 hour? It's curtains for you.
Oh, Eccles.
You?
If I don't get $4,000 within the hour, I'm going to get killed.
Oh, what's the time now?
2 o'clock.
Oh, don't worry, boss. I'll ring Jake. Oh, hello, Jake. Oh, can you fix a funeral for 3 o'clock?
Hello? All-Car Splat Muscle here. Ever vigilant.
Mr. Splat Muscle, my husband's just been shot. I've just come into the front room and found him lying on the carpet there.
Oh, is he dead?
I think so.
Oh, hadn't you better make sure?
All right, just a minute. He's dead.
The one I had from Michael Standing, who was the head of entertainment at the time, was, you can't call it the Goon show, nobody would know who the Goons are. To which I said, well, then nobody knew who Take It From Here was when it first, and it still didn't win. So we had to do Crazy People.
And they thought because there was a show at the Palladium called Crazy Gang, they would call us the Junior Crazy Gang. Are you watching, you bastards?
You've probably seen a photograph of the boys in my office, me with a mallet in my hand. And this was a push thing we did. It's me persuading the boys to sign the contract for the second series. And they're refusing unless we can call it the Goon show. We did that quite as a deliberate setup. And we got our own way.
We'd been going, I think, about a year, perhaps. And they had a planners meeting. And one senior producer got up and said, this Go-On show, what's it all about? Who are these Go-Ons? I mean, it took them a long time to absorb what we were doing.
This is the BBC.
Hold it up to the light, not a brain in sight.
When you're a producer with Spike Milligan, he is a mixture of resenting the fact that you are BBC and also wishing to get on with you in order to get the programme done. So you always had this ambivalence between Spike and yourself, and it could raise problems of temperament at times.
I was trying to shake the BBC out of its apathy, you know, knock sound effects when I knock on the door and crunch on gravel. That was it. And I tried to transform it, and I had to fight like mad, and people didn't like me for it. And I had to rage and bang and crash, and I got it all right in the end, and it paid off, but drove me mad in the process and drove a lot of other people mad, and that's why I don't think I could be a success again on that same level, because I just couldn't go through all the tantrums.
My experiences with Spike is that he would sometimes sacrifice the easy in order to try to explore. He was on the edge of a cliff, and he was determined to jump off to see whether there was a better way of doing something. Michael seemed very much more rooted in a particular type of comedy that he had developed. It was a narrower box than Spike's. Michael seemed more concerned about a proprietorial sense of this is my world.
In our country's hour of the direst need, they threw down the pen, and then they took up the gun, and got 3 nowadays. Exactly the self-same chaps are sort of sweating it out and working away in the fields, the factories, and the forest. You know, in order to keep our glorious flag of empire still flying.
Spike and Mike we'd all be chatting together about doing the show, or doing the rehearsals perhaps. And Spike would have an idea, and it would be picked up by Mike, and then he'd throw it back. And so it was a sort of ping-pong thing. But at the end, both of them go away think that that joke was his. Was really, it was an amalgam of their own ideas. There were never any sort of stand-up rows, but there was a bit of needle now and again, which is good. I think, competition makes you work harder. I just laughed.
If you won't volunteer, we must draw lots. Eccles?
Yeah.
Write your name on a piece of paper and put it in this hat.
Right. There.
Now, draw it out.
There.
Now, read the name on the paper.
Mrs. Phyllis Quartz.
You swine! You're an imposter! You're not Mrs. Phyllis Quartz. I am!
Darling!
Harry brought that energy.
What?
Isn't it terrible when you have to discard the word gaiety? But that's what it was. Harry was carried. He bubbled it along. He was the carrier wave, as it were, on which all the other things went up and down. It was energy in sound.
I'll join the Navy! Join the army. It's too damn noisy in the Navy.
That needed the courage that a good musician has to know how long to go on, when to change key, nobody else in radio made that use of repetition, of pure sound, of letting things go on way beyond the point where any normal person would say, that's enough, that's enough. They'll get fed up with it. But he went like 2 miles beyond that. That's still never been equalled.
Music was very important. The warm-up was started off with a Ray Ellington quartet, and I'd come out and sing Falling in Love with Love, while they did terrible things behind me.
Learning to trust is just for children in school. Pull the bollard.
Variety was hard work, but if you get onto radio, then people come to see you because they want to see what the face behind the voice looked like.
First of all, let's take a small boy shaving for the first time.
I was travelling with them, and it was the only time I recollect the Goon show going out on a tour.
And then he finds he's got no blade in.
The sweat would be pouring off Harry, and he'd say, was I all right? It's all right. He says, full of anxiety. And the lovely thing he would always do at the end of his performance, because he was so delighted at all this applause coming from the audience and this great warmth he had for them and them for him, he would beckon to Spike at the side, come on, come and share it with me.
At 3 o'clock one morning, the phone went. It was Peter, and he said, will you come round right away? I said, well, I'm not unconscious. What do you mean, come round? He said, a bit late, hurry up, see you in the end. And he said, please come round. So I thought he was having trouble with one of his wives. One was leaving or one was coming in, or they both collided. So I just put my overcoat over my pyjamas and got my mini minor. When I drove there, he was sitting outside. It says 3 a.m, winter time, snow on the ground. And the engine running. I said, what's this? He said, look, this is a brand new Rolls Royce. I said, you could have told me that on the phone. I'd have believed you. He said, no, look, he said, there's a squeak in the boot. I said, yes. He said, well, look, he said, take this piece of chalk and this torch, and I want you to get in the boot, and I'm going to drive it up and down the street, and when you hear a squeak, you can't make these stories up, they've got to happen, right? He said, make a little cross. So I thought, so I got in, stand good, and he drove this Rolls Royce up and down on the pavements like this to shake the springs. The police must have seen him, because I heard a car pull up, and then crunch of gravel, and then suddenly, I don't know how you'd feel, but a policeman shone his torch on me in the boot. And he said, oh, it's you.
I can think of Spike on one particular occasion. He took a great dislike to the audience, a very strong dislike. And so after the first performance, when he came off, he went up to his dressing room, and he had a very good voice, Spike, as you know. He could sing jolly well, and he played the trumpet very well. Then he was singing Laura, and then he played this wonderful solo on the trumpet. Well, come the second house, he just didn't appear. I mean, locked himself in the dressing room. He didn't want to have anything more to do with the audience. Can you believe it? I mean, we all have to get on there, but he didn't. That was Spike.
Hello? You silly, twisted boy.
Once you'd heard Grit Pipe Thin or Eccles, you could never forget them. Well, it wasn't a character that would just drift away. And he created them incredibly vividly, and then he knew how to play them off against each other. So he had this extraordinary little group of characters, and then each one had different relationships with everyone. And it was a world of his own. And the greatest comedy writers do exactly that. They create a world of their own.
A complete world, yes. And not too far removed from this one. Although people think, oh, it's just anarchy. And it wasn't anarchy. I mean, some of the jokes that Spike wrote into that, which were... it was a very funny one. Was when the teacher was trying to teach Eccles about the law of gravity. And he said, there's a law. See, the law of gravity. Yeah, but you see, things fall down. No, but there's a pull. He said, I'll tell you what, jump up in the air. He said, okay. And he jumps up in the air, and he said, what happened? You came back to Earth, didn't you? He said, yeah. He said, why? He said, because I live here. Now, jokes like that are absolutely spot on, but different.
What are you doing down here?
Everybody's got to be somewhere.
I think Eccles represents Spike in a way that none of the other characters do.
I've always told him that I think that Eccles is the true Milligan and the rest is just a cover.
And he's right, yes. That's it, man, you know. I don't want to know about thinking and all that thing about earning money. I just want to be an idiot. I'll tell you something.
Matt.
I looked up my dad's trousers once. And I discovered something.
What?
That's where he keeps his legs. Bottle. You ever seen your daddy's legs?
No. He always takes them to work with him.
Anyway, this tall fella, he got a little briefcase and he got the scout hat, but he got a big red beard with all this, and red knees and socks and all the insignia, you know. And he said, and I'm not kidding, this is how he spoke, he said, could I come in for a moment, please? No, true. And I thought, what is this? He said. So I said, yes, certainly, please, what can I do for you? He said, I have just seen Macabentine at Chiswick, and he said that I'm a genius. Then he went on to ask me about doing a concert at the Solgrave Road Boys Club or something, you see. So I said, no, I don't think, it's like Saturday night, after Saturday. It was on the, after the show on Saturday night, I'd pack up my... it was the last thing I really wanted to do at that stage, especially if he was an example of what I was going to find down there. So he said, he thought he took this as a hint. He said, there is a fee involved. So I said, no, it's not a question of money, I assure you. Really, I would come, but I just can't, at the moment. So he stood there for a second. He said, oh, well, just a thought. And so he found out Bluebotle.
When I was at school and the troupe were going to open a fete and they asked me to find somebody to open it. So I went to Chiswick Empire and I said to Michael Bentine, and he said, clever idea, you're a genius. Now, apparently that is a code word between the boys. You've got a muggins on your hand here. But I didn't know that, of course.
The Eccles and Bluebotle are the crumpled characters. And in comedy, you almost need them. Just someone who's so low status that it's off the scale.
Good night, Henry.
Good night, Min.
Did you take your male hormone pills?
Yes, Min.
Oh.
Yes. They give me the strength to go to sleep, Min.
Yes, I know.
Meanwhile, in the smallest and coldest room in the house, in a fort on the northwest frontier, Major Dennis Bloodknock is having difficulties.
Oh, no more curried eggs for me.
The great thing about listening to the Goons was that it was a series of wonderful anticipations as to when your character was going to come in. And in between there were characters that were sometimes different each week, you've not heard before or whatever.
Moriarty, take a letter in gargling fluid. Dear General, according to the shape of my knees, I believe that an illegal raffle for the equator is being held, and for certain monies I will reveal the organizer. Let's have that back, please.
It depended on completely impossible situations and impossible logical jokes about being inside and outside a room at the same time, at being able to travel at enormous speeds into not just simply destinations in space, but destinations in time. So they would undertake, for example, route marches to next year. Now, all that really could only happen either on paper, as it does with Lewis Carroll, or in sound radio, as it did with the Goons.
The Mad Hatter's Tea Party, we won't get worse than that. It's chaos. It's a wonder that Alice let it all happen. I loved the dormouse being constantly dipped into this teapot to make a cup of tea. And I sort of kept reading that because it gave me a buzz.
What's in the teapot?
A man. He says he wants to see you.
Come on up. Now, sir, will you explain why you are hiding in the teapot? I had a date with a tea bag.
One of the key things about the Goons was the delight in language. The delight in language for its own sake. I hope I do that in the Discworld books, but I think that what I owe most of them is the fact that they went there, they opened up new territory. It was up to me and lots of other people to come along afterwards and build cabins and cities and carve little farms out of the wilderness. But they were the guys that went out there first and actually said, hey, there's a whole new continent here, guys. And the rest of us were just colonists.
What's that rough sailor song you sing, Seaman?
I'm singing this map. Oh, the brown parts of the land, da-da, da-da, and the blue bits of the sea, da-da-da-da-da. Going to run a night, going to run a day, the Sherwood Persian I'm along, da-da-da-da-da.
Well, lad, they don't write maps like that anymore.
Milligan has a tremendous sense of conceptual humour. There's a moment at which someone gets charged something. It costs a certain amount of money. And someone says, well, here is a photograph of £5. And the man then says, well, here is a drawing of 3 and 6 change. Well, now, that's not a linguistic joke. That's a wonderful joke about the notion and the meaning of money, about what in fact counts as a valuable token. The idea of a photograph of a token, and the idea of a drawing of a token draws attention to the fact that a pound note itself is nothing more than a token, which doesn't have intrinsic value at all. It simply has authentic value because it's printed by the mint. So why shouldn't a photograph of the same thing also carry value, and why shouldn't a drawing? So I think that there is a level of imagination which I think goes beneath language to something much more fundamental, and that is to the basic structure of thought itself.
Look! We are saved! Look! A house!
It is a house!
A house, yes!
A house!
It's not, it's a mirage. Nonsense, it's a house surrounded by trees. Let's go in.
Yeah!
I still say it's a mirage. Nonsense. Bluebotle, Eccles. Search the house for food.
All right, then.
So, Bloodnut, you think this house is a mirage, eh? You'll soon see. It's vanished. Gone. You were right. A mirage. I told you it was.
Oh!
Eccles, what happened?
I was upstairs.
He played enormously with these jokes about representation, and I think that that Milligan, in some intuitive way, I think he would probably recoil at the thought of being thought of as an intellectual or as an academic or as someone who was dealing with something as serious as logic. But the dear old thing really has to face up to the fact that he was creating art because his imagination was in touch with things which really are of great interest to logicians and of great interest to psychologists who are now preoccupied with the basic deep structures of thought.
I think one of the most perfect pieces of radio writing is the piece where Eccles writes the time down on a piece of paper.
What time is it, Eccles?
Just a minute, I got it written down here on a piece of paper. And a nice man wrote the time down for me this morning.
Oh. Then why do you carry it around with you, Eccles?
Well, if anybody asks me the time, I can show it to them.
Wait a minute, Eccles, my good man.
What is it, fellow?
It's written on this bit of paper. What is 8 o'clock is written.
I know that, my good fellow. That's right. When I asked the fellow to write it down, it was 8 o'clock.
Well, then, supposing when somebody asks you the time, it isn't 8 o'clock.
Well, then I don't show it to them.
Well, how do you know when it's 8 o'clock?
I got it written down on a piece of paper.
Oh, I wish I could afford a piece of paper with the time written on.
Oh.
Here, Echo.
Yeah?
Let me hold that piece of paper to my ear, would you? Here. This piece of paper ain't going.
What? I've been told a forgery.
No wonder it stopped at 8 o'clock.
Oh, dear.
You should get one of them things my granddad's got.
Oh.
His firm gave it to him when he retired.
Oh.
It's one of them things, what it is, that wakes you up at 8 o'clock, boils the kettle, and pours a cup of tea.
Oh, yeah. What's it called?
My grandma.
Oh, wait a minute. How does she know when it's 8 o'clock?
She got it written down on a piece of paper.
It is comedy. They should teach that in schools. They should, as an example of using. I mean, that's a jazz riff.
I have been asked by the BBC who get the audience warmed up. Well, to the best of my knowledge, there is no better way than by the gentlemen using their right hand to squeeze the top of the lady's thigh next to them. Splendid. I will now whistle the soliloquy from Hamlet.
He wasn't so much an impressionist as a chameleon. And you stand next to Peter, and he'd be doing the voice of Crun, and he'd become Crun physically. And then when he became Bloodknock, he blew himself out. And his face altered, and his physical shape altered. And it was quite amazing, it was like a transformation. Strange, but very, very clever.
Sir, what do you think?
What, mate? I don't know, mate. I'm only the bleeding cleaner around here.
I'm sorry, I thought you were one of us.
No, I'm one of them, mate.
You don't look like one of them.
I know I don't.
We weren't allowed to use anything naughty, but we got away with doing just the payoffs of rather naughty army jokes, which would make those in the know out front hysterical, but were completely innocuous in themselves. But we get letters from old ladies in Cheltenham complaining about the filth, and really, they must have known the joke in the first place.
My name is Jempton, Captain Hugh Jempton.
But we use the rapier, not the bludgeon, you understand.
It was mischievous and dangerous. That was something, for me, it was more like sort of what we used to do at school, sort of when teacher wasn't looking.
Like children being let out of school. That's the only way I can describe it. And you could always hear in the background Peter giggling, or me giggling, or Spike giggling. Little private jokes sometimes that we don't repeat.
Shut up, Milligan, I'll thump you in a minute. I'll step on your foot, boy. Cut the time!
You'll caught me flies.
I think that the Sunday get-together used to sort of, put a charge into Spike, and the thing used to get off the ground. We really had a marvellous time. It was probably, as I say, I think looking back, the most happy time professionally I've ever spent.
But for Spike, having to keep up the standard all the time, it was difficult for him. And, it resulted in a breakdown of his health, and I don't think it helped his marriage, his first marriage.
I was married, and I had a little girl, and I thought, I've got to earn some money. This company gives me money, and I got £12.10 a week for writing it, and it went on. Mind you, it went on, and in the end it went up to 150. Yeah. That must have hurt them. They must have counted the money out the night before.
Oh, Eccles Schmeckles, my lovely boy. You're going to make a lot of money for me. We sold every seat in the place.
What are they going to sit on?
You see, when Spike was really having a bad time, because it really was such a hectic show he did. We shared an office over a greengrocer's in Shepherd's Bush, and he said, would I help him to write it, because he was very exhausted. So I helped him for a few shows. And what I remember mostly about helping to do those few shows was the laughs that we had in the writing of it. But I want to disassociate myself from having invented any of it. All I was doing, I went in there to copy, and it was a great part of my life, that.
In fact, I had 4 mental breakdowns. Now, I don't know whether it was the pressure of the show doing it to me, or whether I was just by nature a manic depressive. Perhaps it made the writing funnier.
Here is a preview of next winter in Jimmy Grafton's attic. Yeah. Can your legs stand another recorded winter like that?
Well, I don't stand all winter. Sometimes I lie down. Depends on who she is.
Ned, making love with cold legs up can cause knee trembling.
And ruin a man's chances in the old wedding stakes, then.
What do you suggest?
Leg lag.
Leg lag?
Leg lag.
I was invited to the investiture ball when Prince Charles was made Prince of Wales. And I was driving up during the ceremony. It was being broadcast on the radio, and I was driving up there. And I heard the Prince's speech in Welsh. And I heard the word goon mentioned. I said to mine, I didn't know there was a Welsh word, goon. And then, of course, when he actually said the speech in English, it was Wales had produced many a poet, tragedian, and...
a very memorable goon.
And then he drove off the road. And of course, he's always been a great Goon Show fan. He can do all the voices. He really can.
Right, now, what do you think of that trip?
Didn't like it.
Well, I didn't like it either. It's absolutely rubbish. Look, you're supposed to go to LZ7. You end up at the wrong one. You pick up the wrong people in the wrong place.
Never.
Come on, why?
They jumped it out. One after the other.
The way you were flying it, they probably wanted to jump out.
Just because you got bigger legs than I have?
Absolutely.
You think you can tell me what to do? Yeah.
Look, I will tell you one thing, and one thing only. Before we finish, I'm in charge.
It's all your fault.
It's not my fault.
It
I charge
is your fault.
You don't remember.
Do.
You get it all wrong.
No, it's your fault.
I remember once I said, if anything happened to your lot, God forbid, you could join us. It would be a case of air today and goon tomorrow. He said, it's very drafty at the tower this time of year, Ned. He said,
I'll get my own back on him if it's the last thing I do. Yes, I will. Oh, what a lovely thing to pass on to your children.
You look at the Goons and you see a line, I think, that runs straight through, because you can hear in there, you can hear the Goodies, you can hear Monty Python, you can hear Vic Rees and Bob Mortimer, you can hear all these things, and all these things are subsequent, and you realise that it's almost like Captain Scott and Amundsen, that the Goons got there first, they pitched up their tent, and everything since has been looking back to the originality and the creativity, or the madness, in fact, of Spike and the Goons.
Mary Poppins is a junkie.
It was the birth of alternative comedy. That was it there. And people don't know how to analyse or define alternative comedy anymore. But it is just this other thing. It isn't mainstream. You do have to buy into it.
Steady on, my man. I am Ace Bluebotle, known in Fleet Street as Scoop Bluebotle, Wonder Boy reporter.
What paper do you represent?
Brown paper. It's Professor Eccles.
Oh!
The brains behind...
What? What that?
The brains behind the Windscale disaster.
It's a passionate surrealism, and that may be a contradiction in terms, but Spike is a very passionate man, and there was it's a thin-skin surrealism. That's very rare. He had the ability to care about something and turn it into nonsense in order to prove his point.
The prison was full of British officers who had sworn to die rather than be captured.
He's never lost a sense of the absurd. I mean, that's, I think, where I feel most close to Spike. I look at life and I look at what we're all doing and I think, this is ridiculous, aren't we? We are taking ourselves seriously. We must be balmy. Look at the way we dress, look at the way we walk, look at what we do, you know. And Spike's always had that sense of the absurd. It's been very, very close to his comedy, and I think it's also made him feel sometimes a bit desperate about the human condition. You can't always laugh at it. He's remains the finest comedy mind in terms of explosions of extraordinary originality and ability to turn things on their head that I've ever met. And I have worked with some of great people, Buster Keaton, people like that sort, but Spike remains unique.
Charming little stringy chinless agent, what are the secret orders?
You are to follow me to the football stadium. There we are to insert dynamite in the football boots of every Hungarian player. Then when they kick the ball...
So that's the plan, eh? Right. Follow me to page 23. The jokes are funnier there. That's all here. In here, lads. This is their changing room. Those must be their boots. Now insert the dynamite in the toe caps.
Right. Here, Eccles, hold these 3 red sticks of dynamite.
Oh, wait. One of these isn't a stick of dynamite.
You sure about that, Eccles?
One of them was a stick of Blackpool rock. Of course
Yeah?
I'm sure. Just a minute. Of course I could be wrong, you know. Where to go? Look.
Look at old Eccles. He's blown all his teeth out of his old cake. What funny looking on. You running swine, you.
The Goon Show has never been rated as if it was a major contribution to British culture, or if it is, it's been rather condescended to as if it was a contribution to British popular culture. I think it's of the same importance as Alice in Wonderland, and probably of the same importance as things like the Pickwick Papers. It's a major monument in British cultural life, and I think that Milligan, particularly, I think deserves to be seen not just simply as a comic entertainer. Now, this sounds rather pretentious, but I think that he's a major imaginative artist of the 20th century.
It's the godfather of modern comedy. I think that's what the Goons is.
Well, I got an idea. Follow me.
And on that note, we end the show. However, here is an alternative ending.
Cynthia? Cynthia, darling? It's me, Tom.
Oh, hello, Tom. I didn't know you'd come back until over. I've missed you a lot, Tom. You know, it's been sort of lonely without you here, you know.
Yes, I've been a fool about you.
Oh, it's all right. We all get like that, you know.
This parcel, it's for you.
Oh, isn't it lovely? I love to get a parcel, you know. Because I don't often get them, you know, and I like to... Ooh.
Darling, this thing is bigger than both of us.
Oh, God. It's an elephant.
I can't wait any longer. We're getting married tonight.
So that night, Tom married an elephant.
It was strange that 4 fellas on a Sunday afternoon, getting slightly soiled on brandy in between the shows, made such an impact on the world of comedy.
Good luck, Milligan Seacombe. Where are you, folks?
I suppose I should be pretty proud of the Goon Show because in the long run I realised we changed the direction of the world of humour. In fact, in some cases, I think some of the shows reached a level which no other humour has reached.
Eccles, let us play a game and push him down the well.
Yeah.
He's falling in the water.
Get it in, folks.
That was Heroes of Comedy, The Goon Show, featuring Peter Sellers, Harry Seacombe and Spike Milligan, with the Ray Ellington Quartet and Max Geldring. The orchestra was conducted by Wally Stott, script by Spike Milligan, announcer Wallace Greenslade. The original programs were produced by John Browell, Charles Chilton, Pat Dixon, Peter Eaton and Dennis Mayne Wilson.
What were you trying to say?
Me. I was trying to say me. It was me coming out, yeah. I apportioned the blame, mind you.